Thank you, Rob. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matthew Checkley. We'll be talking about strategy and planning today. Objective is to ask a few of the foundational introductory questions, if you like. The strategy is an interesting topic because it turns out that the foundational introductory questions are actually very, very deep. Okay? So we'll be thinking about that, and we'll also be discussing a few techniques and models that might help you with your own strategizing. So objective, in a sense, is for you guys to feel a little bit more confident with your own thinking about strategy, your own thinking about planning your business. Questions, harangue, heckle, hector, always welcome. So any questions, just ask away, that's always good. Very quickly, talking about myself. I work at the University of Gloucestershire for my sins, teaching strategy and innovation. I did a PhD at Warwick. I've worked in Mexico, a huge university called TEC de Monterrey, for about 3.5 years. I've authored various things on strategy and entrepreneurship and venture capital. I've worked as an industry analyst for about 7 years, welcome, including a very large investment bank called UBS Warburg, analysing software and tech stocks, and a very small bank called Easton Gregory, known at the stock exchange as Reese Burberry. It's very British bank. And I've worked with entrepreneurs raising about £275 million. I've run various ventures, mainly software actually. It's my main interest. Okay, let's move on to strategy. Out to the floor now. Simple question, what is strategy? What do you take it to be? Anyone?
A plan.
A plan, certainly a plan. Do you all plan, therefore? Okay. That's good. Interesting answer. Well, a lot of people don't plan. I would say most businesses don't plan, actually. So when I was in the city, I interviewed about 100 businesses. They were looking to raise a few £1 million, startup capital, maybe float on one of the stock exchanges. And I'd ask them all the same question, which is what is your strategy? What kind of answers of 100? How many do you think gave a good answer to that question? What is your strategy? Yeah, it's about 5, so you're very close. What do the other 95 say, do you think?
It's changing and it's not possible to plan ahead.
Yes. So General Mutzke, military gentleman in whatever, 1700s, said no, plan suffice first contact the enemy. Okay, so that's one problem with planning, that it tends to fall apart in the face of adversity or reality. Okay, well let's come back to the question, the value of planning in a minute. You think of strategy as a plan, are there any other definitions that come to mind?
Is it a concise and deliberate, it's not actually a forecast, but it can involve a plan, 4 steps forwards, and safety mechanisms?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So you can think of some long-term objective. There's a piece of jargon for long-term objective, what success looks like. Do you know what that word is?
Forecast?
Yeah, potentially. The jargon used in strategy is vision, your vision. That's kind of what success looks like, and quite a lot of entrepreneurs are fond of that idea, I found. So, you imagine what success looks like for you, and then your strategy is as it were, putting in place what needs to be in place to make that happen. Okay, so you think of steps as you just said. Okay, very famous definition from an academic called Jay Barney. Strategy is a theory of how an organisation gains advantage. There's about a 2,500 year definition from Taoism, where strategy is the Tao, or the way of organisational survival, life and death of the organisation. Probably the most famous definition is from an academic called Chandler, and that's about a pattern of resource allocation to achieve goals, normally long-term goals. Okay. So it's a bit like defining creativity or innovation or human intelligence. There are quite a lot of definitions in plan. Okay, quite a lot of definitions. Probably the most useful thing I think to hang on to, I would say, is a theory of advantage. Okay, strategy is a theory of how your organisation gains advantage. Okay. So, moving on. Is it important? I mean, if 95 out of 100 organisations interviewed in the city couldn't give a good answer to what their strategy was. Does that suggest it's unimportant? Are they missing out? What do you think?
It's just very complex.
Too complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, too complex. I would say it is too complex. I think that's exactly right. Because what do you have to think about? There could be cash flow, could be product development, there could be marketing development, there could be recruitment, there could be legal issues, there could be economic trends, there could be competitive dynamics, there could be your own motivation. It goes on and on, doesn't it? Now all those factors aren't independent. They all interact, don't they? Everything depends on everything else. So let's say there's 1,000 factors to think of. And they all interact. That's millions or billions, right? We can't bear that cognitive load. It's impossible. It's far too complex. So in strategy, you tend to get a lot of abstraction, and abstraction is just a clever word for simplification, isn't it? So later we'll discuss some ways to abstract and simplify what you may take strategy to be. Okay, back to the question, is it important? We've said it's too complex, but should we have a go?
It is important.
Why would sorry.
Is it true that a lot of entrepreneurs aren't very good at the strategy, but they always have the vision? And so they sort of like find ways to, or help from other people into that vision. They just brave, they just go for it, and I don't know.
Pull the trigger aim later.
That's what they do, yeah. That's what they do.
I don't know. I disagree because a vision without a plan is just like a dream, right?
But there's a theory that says that you have to dream it first and find a way to get there.
That's a common.
Realising it, even
I
not
don't
have a strategic plan, but
I only see
kind of
vision,
bumble
you
your
say,
way.
yeah, you just get through, yeah.
So everyone in the room would say they've got something like, the word vision's a bit open, something like a vision, some kind of ideal, maybe future that they're aiming towards in broad terms. But some people, it may be implicit, you haven't made it explicit yet. Yeah? There may be value in making it explicit. Then it becomes more shareable, because you just said often you've got something in your head, but you're depending actually on other people, aren't you, to make strategy work. It's actually, I actually think of strategy as a kind of collective intelligence, a kind of group brain intelligence. That's my definition. So if you can't share it, you can't build it. And if it's implicit, you can't share it. So simple and explicit would seem to be a real valuable thing to create. Okay. So one idea then might be to think about the vision, and then you might think about steps, phases of development. That's how venture capitalists would put it. A kind of route map to building that vision. And that may be a useful exercise strategically. Okay. Now, in terms of its value, we've got some evidence that organisations that do a day or two strategy planning per year tend to perform better. Whether that's causal or not is a difficult question. But very broadly, I would say if you think about a rowing team or a rugby team, for example, we want tight coordination, don't we? We want this team to have a clear way of working, okay? And a lot of very talented individuals without that coordination will be a really weak team, and they'll be annihilated by a lot of weaker individuals with strong coordination. That's the way it works in sports. It's very obvious, isn't it? So things like rowing are all about an agreed pattern of working, okay? So I think that's quite a valuable metaphor for strategy. If you're agreed on a way forward, you tend to be more motivated, more committed, more efficient, more effective, and maybe even more creative as well. So those are big benefits, okay? Those are big benefits. Okay. Tough question now. What is good strategy?
And it's something that is smart or specific. So a strategy written down is useful if you can then measure it.
Yeah.
So for me, if I think a bit more creatively, but I've collaboratively worked with finance people or people that are slightly better at numbers,
Yeah.
I can then suddenly actually measure my progress a bit better because I can say, did I achieve this business milestone?
Yeah.
How did I do it and stuff like that.
Okay. So you could think of strategy as a long-term plan to be managed like a project, and therefore measurable. Sub-goals, if you like, is a valuable thing. What else? Has anybody met a really great strategist yet? Sorry.
I read somewhere that the best strategy is to start in my experience, I have been looking for a perfect condition that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The best way, the best strategy, or the first strategy is to start wherever you want. There's a little procrastination because we're always looking for perfect condition that doesn't exist.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
So you start off with a compromise.
I'm
at the start.
procrastinating now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm procrastinating now, so.
Direction?
Yeah. Strong direction. Has anyone met someone they regard as a great strategist? When I used to listen to Mandelson in the days of Blair and Mandelson being interviewed, I thought, this guy's smart. He may be a little bit morally questionable, but he's a really smart guy. I mean, he's thinking things through short term, long term, medium term. He's thinking about the angles. He's a clever guy. I thought that. I thought strategically he's smart. Has anyone known anyone like that? Can you draw on what made them so good? Perhaps.
So the campaign manager of Barack Obama.
Oh, who? Sorry.
Barack Obama.
Oh, right. Yeah,
He was smart.
yeah. Some of the political structures are very, very sharp. Okay. Okay, it's a tough question, guys, and I think there are a lot of potential answers. I'm going to give you one. We have some appendices. There we are. Here's an answer. Okay, orientation. So think of this as analysis. Okay, this is the stuff that the stereotypical financial analyst or MBA student is good at. Where are you with cash flow? Where are you with market share? Where are you with prototyping, product development, contracting? Versus where do you need to be? Yeah. Versus where do you need to be? And all that analysis, we've used the word orientation there, but it's just analysis and understanding where you are versus where you need to be in the dimensions that matter to you. Okay. Now, if you're very high here, but you're not doing a lot, loads of analysis, not a lot of action. We could, it's an ugly phrase, but in England we say paralysis by analysis, don't we? Okay. Animation, this is doing stuff. The stereotypical entrepreneur or salesperson, does an awful lot, but if it's not skillfully directed towards long-term goals, we tend to call that something like a loose cannon, don't we? A lot of action, not a lot of direction. Okay. Now, if we can synthesize those two, blend them, so we're doing an awful lot of good stuff in a directed, as you said earlier, in a directed manner, we could call that good strategy. Okay? There's one definition for you. There are others. How many of us do you think are naturally good, bless you, on both dimensions? I think I'm way down here somewhere, personally, but how many of us are good on both dimensions? Very few. So what might that tell you about a good strategy team? Two animals, aren't they? They're different animals. And then how do we get the blending? So to end up here, there has to be some kind of cocktail, blending, synthesis. How does that actually come about? What are the mechanics? What's the process of achieving that, do you think? Because these are different animals, aren't they?
Delegation. If you can't do something, just give it to the person who can.
Yes, maybe. Delegation.
A good plan.
A plan to synthesize, you mean?
Well, a plan and therefore a direction that you can therefore each take your role to achieve.
Oh, okay. Okay. So just having a vision. Just having a vision may help the synthesis. I think that's right. Having a vision may. If everyone buys into it, that's a big start. In my experience, guys, this is a certain amount of debate. You have to speak a kind of patois, because these are different animals and they speak different languages. So you have to speak in a way that's shared, okay? And that may be a slightly less technical or more technical language than you're used to, or whatever. So you end up adopting a kind of patois, kind of shared language. There's a debate, a certain amount of stress, a bit of heartache, you have a fight breaking out. But the point is you're going to get some kind of synthesis, and that's all good for the strategy. I'm not sure it's necessarily an easy process. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it should be stressful.
I think also, like you said, they're two different beasts, and therefore you don't maybe have all of the answers yourself.
Yeah.
So this is where maybe sharing your strategy,
Yeah.
seeking input outside of just out of yourself if you're all on band, or making sure you have complementary people around you that can give you that yin and yang, I suppose, of it all.
Okay. Absolutely. You need people who are willing to disagree with you. It's always very valuable. Have people willing to constructively disagree with you. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so strategy may be important. It helps coordinate, motivate, build commitment. Good strategy may be some combination of animation and orientation analysis and doing stuff. So in other words, lots of doing in a very directed manner. What's it directed towards? This thing called the vision. Now, most people do not manage to do this. So 95 out of 100 businesses, pretty mature businesses I interviewed in the city, weren't doing anything like this. Why not? Why aren't people reaching these kind of standards of understanding strategy and understanding good strategy and then doing it? What's stopping people, do you think?
Because it takes time and they're too busy running the day to day and they don't stand back necessarily to look at where they're going and what's to come.
Or they can't see it because they're in the middle of it.
Yeah. So the last thing a goldfish discovers is water, isn't it? Yeah. So the example I give my students is if let's say you lived all your life in London but never left, you know, you understand the streets and the smells and the sounds and the culture of the buildings and the traffic and all this good stuff. But it's arguably only when you've left London, maybe visited Paris or New York, for example, that you've got some kind of perspective on London. Because London's all you've known. So that withdrawal, as well as immersion, you need both, don't you? To understand London, you have to spend time in London. To understand London, you have to leave London. So strategy, you know, it's immersion, it's involvement in the nitty-gritty, but it's also some kind of standing back. So how do we create the space then to stand up, to stand back? How do we do that?
Take people out of the environment.
Yeah, maybe.
Counterintuitive.
So it's counterintuitive. Sorry, who said that?
Oh, that's
Sorry.
So, I think regardless of what field you put yourself in on the box,
Yeah.
when you go through startup, I think some of us are there, some of us are just starting, or some of us are a bit further in.